Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, and Shinrin Yoku, the Oppenheimer Ranch News Network, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, October 26th, around 11 p.m. Mountain Time 2020. The models are not funny. If you're waiting for this snowstorm to end, it's still going to hit the south. Look at this. In the next 2 days, Texas, the nexus of the schmexus, could be hit, but New Mexico is going to be covered and buried. We know that. Now, this is going to add insult to injury as this storm moves east and meets the hurricane Zeta Eta Theta moving onshore here near New Orleans. Bad news, but the big story, Colorado State Patrol warning about bad road conditions in southern Colorado. Real bad. Yesterday, oh my goodness. Pueblo, Colorado, the Colorado State Patrol is warning people to be careful. They got over 2 feet, and blowing snow made it 4 to 6 feet in some areas. Hotels in Walsenburg are at full. Roads are very bad, blowing and drifting snow. Consider staying home. This is what the state police is saying, because it was whiteout, and it was bad. Keep calm. It's fall. 140-mile-per-hour gusts recorded as incredible wind raked California, sparking new wildfires. Now, the average gust was around 80 to 90 miles per hour, but many gusts, read the article. The Tahoe Basin saw gusts of 94 miles per hour, reaching a gauge peak in alpine meadows and other areas. Speeds of over 100 miles per hour recorded on exposed ridge tops at several ski areas. Please check the data. Now, dangerous winds set off precautionary power shutoffs in California, which led to, according to the mainstream and the utility, 361,000 customers would be without power. When we checked earlier today, there was 567,000. And right now it's right at 360,000 in California. 500,000 total if you include Oklahoma, which is in the midst of a winter storm. Huge power outages across the country as the pandemic ensues and Joe Biden wants to end oil and gas. Are you thinking about that? Strong winds and heavy rains lash the Yucatan Peninsula as Hurricane Zeta nears landfall at the Yucatan. Not near the U.S., but it's coming there soon. And as far as the Hurricane Zeta forecast, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Hurricane conditions and dangerous storm surge are expected to continue in portions of the northern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico through Tuesday, which is their lose day. Heavy rainfall is expected across the Yucatan, the Caymans, and western Cuba through Tuesday, which could lead to flash flooding in urban areas. As the winter storm makes its way across the southeast, saturating the grounds, hurricane conditions and life-threatening storm surge are possible along portions of the northern Gulf Coast on Wednesday, and storm surge and hurricane watches are in effect. Now, this is only showing 4 to 6 inches of rain, but if the ground is already saturated from a previous storm, it's going to be, catastrophic in the New Orleans region. Hurricane Zeta, here is the track where you can see her coming up on shore here, just like Hunter Biden smoking crack. Do you think we'll be demonetized for that? Here are the rainfall totals. They're not schmodals. It's 4 to 6 inches in this region that's already going to be saturated, which is equivalent to 10 to 12 inches on any other given day. So flash flooding is imminent. Let's get to the snow. Accumulating snowfall mostly done on Colorado's Front Range. Yeah, let's look at the totals. It's insane. Do you know it's not even Halloween? Yeah, 17 inches in Mishawaka, 14 in Fort Collins, 11 in Loveland. Loving it. Winter storm causing widespread impacts across most of the western and central western U.S. Look at these. These are farmers trying to do stuff. The predicted winter storm to hit the western slope today, with it came quite a few impacts, and none of them are listed below. I love it how that works. Salt Lake City 142-year-old cold temperature record snapped Monday like a tree limb. And people went sledding way ahead of schedule. The temperatures at Salt Lake City International Airport dropped to 19 degrees Monday morning, according to the National Weather Service. That reading snapped the record for the coldest October 26, below the city's record of 22 degrees 142 years ago in 1878. And it crushed it by 3 degrees. That is unprecedented. We don't even need to argue that temperature. Cold temperatures were also reported throughout the state as a result of the grand solar minimum, the magnetic reversal, the breakdown of the jet stream, meridional flow, and nothing that these reporters have to report on. Period. They're frauds. They have no idea what's going on. We've been predicting it for 4 years, and they're at a standstill. Here are your power outages. Take a look. 500,000 people right now without power. Hours of powers. Now, where were we? There's the track. There's the flooding. There's the snow. Ho, ho, ho. Now, as these snowstorms collide in local rural towns like Pagosa Springs and others, well, mountain folks do what they do. They strap on their snowboards and their skis and they just go up there and they have fun. I made some videos today. I did the same thing. It's not unusual. This has been recorded in previous times, and the people here are mountain people and they know what to do. They go get it. Trust me. We're going to go get some. Now let's take a look at some of the official totals coming, not from the mainstream. Take a look. There's some big numbers here. 23 inches in Levada. That's like 50 miles. Well, it's actually opposite of how you have to get to it. It's over there. 23 inches in Levada. It's about 50 miles from here. Spanish Peaks, another maybe 100 miles. 22 inches. Balula, 19.5. Mishawaka, 19.5. That's been upped from 17.5 earlier ago. Walsenburg at 18. Horsetooth, Kiss My Aska at 18. Rice, 18. Fort Collins at 18. Colorado City, 16. Ned, where they have a frozen guy, 12.5 feet. Well, 12.6 inches. Those are cinches. A lot of snow falling. Cold snap, change in weather to bring freezing temps and snow to Arizona. Smokabona. Holy macaroni. Bundle up. Weather Service steps up warnings of widespread freeze in southern Arizona. And we're going to get to those models in a second. Look at the total precipitated snow in the last 72 hours. All the way south here. I think I saw 2 feet down here. That's in Taos Valley. Take a look at the 3 feet pummeling this region. And we also have 3 feet up in Idaho and stuff. But let's just look what happened in the last day. Let's just do it. Hey. And look at Colorado is completely buried in snow. Almost the entire state got snow. Almost 90% of the state covered in snow in October. Unprecedented. Nebraska got a hit. Kansas got some tippy touch. And even a little bit here on Texas, the nexus of the schmexus. But this is the beginning of the forecast. This storm is dipping south. It's going to meet the hurricane coming up into the Gulf. And it will be a nightmare. Trust me. It will add insult to injury. And take a look at the winter storm warnings and watches in New Mexico tonight. The entire state. The entire northern tier of Texas, the nexus of the schmexus in winter storm warning. hard freeze and frost extending up through the penis erect up into this region. And the ball sack here. Look at the ball sack in Texas. It's amazing. It's almost unprecedented. And we tuned you in here on the close-up just to see what's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 hours. Take a look at this. New Mexico, Tuesday afternoon. Boom. You're buried. By Tuesday night, 2 feet of snow in 12% of the entire state. This is a epic situation beyond reproach. Take a look at northern Texas. I don't even know what these people are going to do. They will not. They just do not know. Look at the size of that thing. This is the most phallic storm to ever occur in the southern regions, time immemorial. We'll come over to another CMC model, and they even make the penis a little bigger. Can I even say that? We'll see. NASA says there's definitely water on the moon. This is the breakthrough announcement we told you about 5 days ago. It was coming Monday. Well, and they came right through. NASA scientists announced the first unambiguous detection of water molecules. Now, previously, they had suggested that all the water they were detecting was hydroxyl. Clearly, the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. It's in space for billions of years. There can't be water up there. But they flipped the switch like a boom, one day to the next. And now what we're hearing from NASA is the exact opposite. There's actual water ice hidden in the craters of the moon. Now, what's even more insane is that they claim that this ice is like 4.7 billion years old, which is completely incorrect. NASA telescopes uncovered definitive evidence of water on the moon. A telescope in back of the 747 finally puts to rest a long-standing question of lunar water. Well, I don't think it was in the back of a 747, but it was certainly part of a solar satellite program that is called Solaris. So, more importantly, which national park are you most likely to die visiting? Well, that's Cascade National Park, ladies and gentlemen. Golf clap. The North Cascades National Park is the deadliest national park in U.S., according to analysts by personal injury law firm, because we respect them. But Panis, Shea, and Boyle LLP, which is based in California, that has probably midday commercials during sitcoms. Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. Remember that? Well, according to them, the U.S. national park sites and found that between 2007 and 2018, there were a total of 2,727 deaths at national parks. National parks are dangerous, especially to the snowflakes and the sheeple. They critter out there on the edge of the cliff. They don't realize that things like gravel and loose rocks exist. They think it's safe. It's a national park. It's safe. I'm going to jump over the fence and walk over here. And guess what? Boom! They're dead. So, if you're in the North Cascades National Park, take heed. Group thinks it has found proof of 10,000-year-old ice culture in the Straits of Mackinac. Now, there have been archaeologists for decades searching in this region, but guess what? The indigenous people and locals have kicked ass and take names. They're trying to prevent a pipeline going through a Great Lake, so they got subsurface like submarines and video, and they went and they searched where the supposed pipeline's going to go. And guess what they found? Well, it was boom time, kids. As soon as they went downtown, Leroy Brown, they found circular stone structures and other linear arrays. These are man-made objects. Nobody knows what they are. But the pipeline was supposed to go right underneath of these babies. So that's good news on two fronts. No oil and gas moving underneath the Great Lakes polluting the water. Archaeological sites defined. Our hidden history is being exposed. And 3, boom, fuck the system. We're getting it. We're getting somewhere quickly. Rare two-headed snake discovered by Florida house cat. Not by humans, by cat. Thank God this cat brought it back. These are the signs of the times. Cosmic ray flux has increased to all-time record highs in the last maybe 10,000 years. Anyone's guess. And evolution, in my opinion, is caused by cosmic radiation, not by gradualism and anything that Darwin said. Darwinism is dead. And when I even went into academia at the university in the early 80s, it was the late 80s. But in the early 90s, when Niles Eldredge's work came out on punctuated equilibria, we were talking in our closed circles about the nonsense of evolution. There is no evidence for gradual evolution in any species ever. Species stay constant for long periods of time, then there's an instantaneous plane where above it they change into new species. Those are the facts, the scientific facts. And before we leave you tonight, we have some bonus information on astrology. With the rare full blue moon in Taurus, a double full moon this month on Halloween, you can expect intense and spooky energy all week. Now, luckily, tomorrow we're coming off the cusp of the spookiness. But the week ahead brings spooky and abrupt transformation right from the start. On Sunday, October 25th, Mercury conjoin the Sun while in full retrograde mode. This is when its trickster-like nature will likely reveal itself. But while technological mayhem may be afoot, so too is wisdom. To make the most of this, do the work to turn inward. Listen to your intuition's voice. And sensitize yourself to the direction it's guiding you. For the rest of the week, starting today, now, at this video, as intentions build towards the full blue moon in Taurus on Halloween, this guiding advice is key to embrace. Now, with the moon waxing towards a full blue moon in Taurus this week, the energy of revelation and the momentum of change will build. On Tuesday, the 27th, tomorrow, Venus exits Virgo and enters into its home domain of Libra. For most of the month, it will stay there. She's traveled in fastidious and detail-oriented Virgo, supporting an inward glance at what we need to do on our paths to elevate into grandeur, service of others and the planet. So from today up until the full moon, what will be revealed through the Akashic record is what you need to do for the rest of your life. So if you've been sitting in limbo and you've been wondering what your path is, meditate on it. Go to bed tonight after this video and ask the powers that be to give you direction. And if you do this every morning and night for the next week up to the full moon, I guarantee you will get an answer. And those of you that get an answer, please comment below when it hits you like a ton of bricks. That's how it works. Hope you got something out of the video. And that's a boom to knowledge. Now, the knowledge has not ended. Now, we've been going strong here tonight. We're about 20 minutes in, which is a sin. I'm trying to make myself bigger, which to some is a trigger. But to others is the fact that they know I'm about to bring on some big things. Now, we've provided this video in the past, but I think today is a day where there are millions of people waiting to hear this message. And if just one person listening tonight hears something that they haven't heard before, well, that's a big win. And we're going for a big win because we're headed towards the big reset. Now, whether it's cosmological reset prior to the pandemic reset, that's on you. But let's watch the video and make our own decision. I think you'll be quite familiar with the content starting now. We love each and every one of you. All of our one-time donors, our new Patreons. Without you, we couldn't do this. We need you all to hit that thumbs up and like button that helps the algorithm, that keeps us out of the censorship that is plaguing social media from alternative media outlets like the Oppenheimer Ranch News Network. But the words that I speak have been spoken decades ago by others, and we need to listen to them with our hearts open and our minds open as well.
Nevertheless, my purpose here tonight is not to deliver the usual assault on the so-called one-party press. On the contrary, in recent months, I have rarely heard any complaints about political bias in the press, except from a few Republicans. Nor is it my purpose tonight to discuss or defend the televising of presidential press conferences. I think it is highly beneficial to have some 20 million Americans regularly sit in on these conferences to observe, if I may say so, the incisive, the intelligent, and the courteous qualities displayed by your Washington correspondents. Nor, finally, are these remarks intended to examine the proper degree of privacy which the press should allow to any president and his family. If, in the last few months, your White House reporters and photographers have been attending church services with regularity, that has surely done them no harm. On the other hand, I realize that your staff and wire service photographers may be complaining that they do not enjoy the same green privileges, the local golf courses, which they once did. It is true that my predecessor did not object, as I do, to pictures of one's golfing skill in action. But neither, on the other hand, did he ever be a Secret Service man. My topic tonight is a more sober one, of concern to publishers as well as editors. I want to talk about our common responsibilities in the face of a common danger. The events of recent weeks may have helped to illuminate that challenge for some, but the dimensions of its threat have loomed large on the horizon for many years.
Now, before we continue, I just want to drop some of my talking points onto the rest of this discussion, which is going to extend for another 5 minutes from JFK. It's my opinion that the Democrat Party of 1961 is currently the Republican Party of 2020. There's no different thinking than exactly what JFK is saying here back in April 27th of 1961, right before he was murdered by the CIA and the FBI. But the current GOP party, which I now support, I've never supported them ever in my life until just months ago, is the Democrat Party that JFK once was back in April 27th of 1961. Consider that my opinion and listen to the rest of this video with an open mind. And do your due diligence, please. This is the most important flexure point in American history, in my opinion. And it's so important that the words of a dead man who's been dead for decades upon decades, that many people alive today that are voting don't even know he spoke, are so important. So if you have children and you're homeschooling, please let them watch this video. And go find the entire 16-minute expose of this private video of JFK right before he was murdered. Because according to Facebook and Twitter, this is incorrect. He did not say this. But clearly, after you watch this, if you're critical in your thinking, you will realize otherwise. That real eyes realize real lies. Be safe. We love you. From the bottom of our hearts.
Our hopes may be for the future, for reducing this threat or living with it, there is no escaping either the gravity or the totality of its challenge to our survival and to our security. A challenge that confronts us in unaccustomed ways in every sphere of human activity. This deadly challenge imposes upon our society two requirements of direct concern, both to the press and to the President. Two requirements that may seem almost contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger. And yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent. It requires a change in outlook, a change in tactics, a change in missions by the government, by the people, by every businessman or labor leader, and by every newspaper. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War, in short, with a wartime discipline no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Nevertheless, every democracy recognizes the necessary restraints of national security. And the question remains whether those restraints need to be more strictly observed if we are to oppose this kind of attack as well as outright invasion. For the facts of the matter are that this nation's foes have openly boasted of acquiring through our newspapers information they would otherwise hire agents to acquire through theft, bribery, or espionage. That details of this nation's covert preparations to counter the enemy's covert operations have been available to every newspaper reader, friend and foe alike. That the size, the strength, the location, and the nature of our forces and weapons, and our plans and strategy for their use, have all been pinpointed in the press and other news media to a degree sufficient to satisfy any foreign power, and that in at least one case, the publication of details concerning a secret mechanism whereby satellites were followed required its alteration at the expense of considerable time and money. The newspapers which printed these stories were loyal, patriotic, responsible, and well-meaning. Had we been engaged in open warfare, they undoubtedly would not have published such items. But in the absence of open warfare, they recognized only the tests of journalism and not the tests of national security. And my question tonight is whether additional tests should not now be adopted. That question is for you alone to answer. No public official should answer it for you. No governmental plan should impose its restraints against your will. But I would be failing in my duty to the nation in considering all of the responsibilities that we now bear and all of the means at hand to meet those responsibilities if I did not commend this problem to your attention and urge its thoughtful consideration. On many earlier occasions I have said, and your newspapers have constantly said, that these are times that appeal to every citizen's sense of sacrifice and self-discipline. They call out to every citizen to weigh his rights and comforts against his obligations to the common good. I cannot now believe that those citizens who serve in the newspaper business consider themselves exempt from that appeal. I have no intention of establishing a new Office of War Information to govern the flow of news. I am not suggesting any new forms of censorship or new types of security classifications. I have no easy answer to the dilemma that I have posed and would not seek to impose it if I had one. But I am asking the members of the newspaper profession and the industry in this country to re-examine their own responsibilities, to consider the degree and the nature of the present danger, and to heed the duty of self-restraint which that danger imposes upon us all. Every newspaper now asks itself, with respect to every story, is it news? All I suggest is that you add the question, is it in the interest of national security? And I hope that every group in America, unions and businessmen and public officials at every level, will ask the same question of their endeavors and subject their actions to this same exacting test. And should the press of America consider and recommend the voluntary assumption of specific new steps or machinery, I can assure you that we will cooperate wholeheartedly with those recommendations. Perhaps there will be no recommendations. Perhaps there is no answer to the dilemma faced by a free and open society in a cold and secret war. In times of peace, any discussion of this subject and any action that results are both painful and without precedent. But this is a time of peace and peril which knows no precedent in history. It is the unprecedented nature of this challenge that also gives rise to your second obligation, an obligation which I share. And that is our obligation to inform and alert the American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security, and we intend to do it. It was early in the 17th century that Francis Bacon remarked on three recent inventions already transforming the world: the compass, gunpowder, and the printing press. Now the links between the nations, first forged by the compass, have made us all citizens of the world, the hopes and threats of one becoming the hopes and threats of us all. In that one world's effort to live together, the evolution of gunpowder to its ultimate limit has warned mankind of the terrible consequences of failure. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
Now, if you've listened to these words and you understand the significance of the situation, why would anyone vote for Biden? Why would anyone vote for government? The situation that we're living in, well, it's a conundrum. Do you believe the words of JFK, which I believe are wholeheartedly the most important words of American history? April 27th, 1961. And we're sitting here, almost 60 years later, dealing with the same situation that got him murdered. Will President Trump be executed? Will Biden die by stroke in the morning? It's anyone's guess. But the media is completely complicit in the lie. They've been taken over because since 1989, Citizens United was passed. Corporations equal votes. And we all know that multinational corporations own more money than all the rest of us combined. So they win the vote. Exactly what JFK was warning against. And here we are today. What are we going to do? We either need a civil war, but that civil war is not against the American people. It's against the media. The media needs to be taken out. Twitter, YouTube, CNN, all mainstream channels that provide this false information from the shadow government, from the New World Order that JFK was warning about. This has now been going on for now 60 years. And it's reached its culmination, the point at which they can infiltrate. It's not a war against another country. It's a war against the elites. They control all of the countries. And all of the elites will go down. Trust me, we have billions of people to fight the power. We just need to educate the public on what's actually happening. And JFK started the process 59 years ago. And we love him for that. If I were to pick one hero in my lifetime, the most important, influential person in the world, it would be John F. Kennedy. And I've believed this for about 40 years at this point. I love you, JFK. I love our country. I love what we stand on. I don't necessarily love what we've done and what we've become. But there's hope. And if you hope for the future, which is a dark one, trust me, you'll listen to the words of this man and you'll fight back. Because proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance into the future we're going into, which the elites know involves, grand solar minimum, magnetic reversal, grid down scenarios, and war. Well, and JFK knew it too. But what will we do about it? That's the important question. Rising up. Becoming leaders. Disseminating important information and creating community. The communities we create are permaculture communities, which are self-sufficient. So if the grid goes down or they try to tighten us up, we're fully sustainable. That's important. But these powers are very deceptive, very dangerous. So follow us along the narrative as we figure out, day by day, how to survive and thrive in a future of dystopian insanity. We love you, JFK. I wiped the tears from my eyes while I listened. We finished up. And we love each and every one of you patriots that support this channel, that watch these videos, and that will have the balls to share this information. Now, JFK was a Democrat, as I was. But today he would be a Republican. Based on his narrative. And that's all we have to say right now. We love each and every one of you. Please share this with like-minded people. Please be hopeful for the future, because there is a future. Every day we wake up is tomorrow. But the future that the people in power right now want to make globally is not the future that the Americans want to see locally. We want freedom, freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms, freedom to redress our grievances against the government that was set down in 1776. We want the freedom to create militias and to fight back. And guess what? We are allowed these freedoms. And JFK was right on every single one of his talking points. We will not stand for tyranny. We will not stand for oppression. We will not stand for crony capitalism. We are Americans, and we deem the narrative. Be safe. We love you. And that is an American boom to science.